Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss about tourism in Kerala and the impact of COVID-19 on Kerala tourism. As you all know, tourism industry was badly affected due to COVID-19. In fact, it was the first to get affected and probably the last to be recovered. As the lockdown is coming to an end, the government of India has announced some relaxation, which is an advantage for the people working in this industry. People are allowed to travel within the state. Hotels and restaurants are open from 9th June, which seems to be a good sign for the tourism industry. Let's now talk to some experts and find out the ground reality in Kerala. We are going to talk to a few travel experts in Cochin city. Then I will take you on a trip to the beautiful Munnar. Let's eat and travel with Jay. I am right now with Mr. George Skaria and Ashok Swaroop, the President and Secretary of Tourism Professionals Club, a non-profitable organization formed by the tourism professionals. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome to my show.
Good afternoon, Jay. Good afternoon.
Mr. Swaroop, there is a campaign going on in the social media with the hashtag Kerala Unlocked. What does this mean? Is Kerala ready to welcome its guests? And can people from all around the world travel to Kerala once the international flights start operating?
Let me give you a bit more insight into this campaign. The club took a decision to put some effort to revive the industry, and it was under the circumstances when no one came to our help, and we also believed no one would come to our help to bring us back. Under the situation, we had a lot of brainstorming sessions. Then we decided to entrust a good advertising agency into it and other associated supports that required. Combined with all these efforts, we could come up with a good plan that is a phased, the plan is in a phased manner. The initial phase, we have just launched the logo of the campaign. Hashtag Kerala Unlock is just the it's at the initial stages. It is just the logo that you have released, but it has got different dimensions. Initially, Kerala Unlock means it can be adapted to all industry. The entire Kerala is unlocked. We have never started talking about tourism, or we are not inviting the guests to come as of now, but it contradicts in the sense the hotels are open, so guests should naturally come in, only then they can survive. So in a subtle manner, we would like to push the guests to come to the hotels. At this stage, we are not directly inviting the guests to come in, but the hotels are open, so they will do some small promotions. In that manner, the guests will come. Probably at the later stage, we have got a solid plan for this. So second campaign will start. Second campaign will be much more related to bringing the guests to the hotels, and in a phased manner, whenever the situation improves, we will be able to invite guests from other states, then the guests from other countries, and we have got solid plans for that. As of now, we are just prepared to handle local guests in the sense the people who are already residing in Kerala. We don't intend to attract guests from outside the state or outside the country. But as you asked, are we prepared to receive the guests from abroad once the flights are open? We are definitely prepared, but it depends upon the circumstances, the governmental regulation. Everything matters. When everything is fine, why not? We can take the guests coming from outside. There is no point in waiting. When the flights are open and when the guest regulations are relaxed and the government issues visa, we definitely can handle. Our hotels are very much prepared to receive the guests with all safety precautions.
This campaign has gone viral on social media. I've seen many foreign tour operators sharing and retweeting it. Are you receiving the similar support from the local agents and hoteliers in Kerala? Are you all working as a team?
Yes, you are right. The campaign has gone viral. This one is circulating all over the world, and we are receiving a lot of appreciations and inquiries regarding this. We are receiving messages from our agents or well-wishers all across the globe, and we are indeed started getting support from the hoteliers and all our industry associates, but we need more support to go ahead. It's a big task. We need more support.
Mr. George, Swaroop just mentioned the main motive behind this campaign at this stage is to encourage the local people to travel within Kerala. And do you think we Malayalis will spend more than one day for a holiday within Kerala?
Oh, sure. The travel trends of the Malayalis, have been transformed a lot these days. And I am sure, this pandemic, keeping people in their homes for 3 or 4 months might have changed their lifestyle a lot. So they can afford. There are people who can afford, and definitely they will travel for more than a week or something. So this cannot be a big problem.
TPC has always been in the forefront supporting the people of Kerala. The support extended by TPC to the people living in Palyanthuruth after the 2018 flood was remarkable. Now, as you know, many tour operators have lost their jobs. They are really finding it difficult to survive. At this stage, what is TPC planning to do for your own members, and how are you going to support them at this stage?
TPC is a platform, which created for supporting morally the members. Basically this is not a rich club, so this is a kind of an entertainment platform for the tourism professionals working in Kerala. So we were, as Swaroop said, we had a lot of brainstorming on this, how to support our members. Then we have found this idea of Kerala Unlocked. This is a kind of a moral boosting for our members, giving them a hope that tourism is coming back in full strength. So this will be our best effort towards reviving our industry, and once the industry is revived, naturally our members are also be a part of it. So I think TPC has taken the right step towards this.
Are you optimistic that tourism in Kerala will revive and it will get back to its glory very soon?
I am 100% optimistic. I am basically from a farmer background, and my main business, I should say, is farming. But why I am sticking to tourism is just because of my passion, and I am sure that many of our professionals, they have the same passion, and even this pandemic cannot take out the passion. The tourism will come back. It's just a question of time. And even in Kerala, when we were running this campaign, we know that tourism will come back, but we do not want to give a message which can go negative. That's why we are evaluating the situation every day, and whenever the situation is mature enough to receive people from abroad, we will start working on that. So I am 100% confident we will be back.
Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen, and let's work towards the betterment of tourism in Kerala. Hi, I am right now with Mr. Hari Kesi. He is the business head of a leading tour company in Cochin. They have their global presence. He is also the joint secretary of Kerala Travel Mart Society. Welcome to my show, Hari.
Thank you, Jay. It's a pleasure.
You have your presence in Sri Lanka. That is the reason I am asking you this question. I heard that Sri Lanka is opening up on 1st of August.
Yep.
Do you think Kerala? Do you think it's going to be a threat for Kerala?
That's a tricky question, Jay. See, first of all, I really don't think it's a major, Sri Lanka is a major competition for Kerala as such. Of course, there are a lot of similarities, but even before the COVID thing, Sri Lanka was already there and Kerala also was there, and both had their own kind of markets, and both have been surviving quite well. So that question is relevant to some extent, but I don't think Sri Lanka is going to pose a major threat. But still, see, what I would say, Kerala has got something, a USP, which is the Ayurveda. Though Sri Lanka also claims to have Ayurveda, people around the world knows that the Ayurveda, what we have in Kerala, is more genuine. So that market will always remain for Kerala. But when you talk about the tourism culture, I would say Sri Lanka is much more ahead of that. That's not even before COVID. That's the situation. Opening up in August is a good thing. I mean, it's a very positive news, but how far that is going to be effective is yet to be seen. That's mainly because the borders are open, but there need to be people who should be coming in. The people back in Europe or their traditional markets, they have gone through a lot of issues. I mean, health issues, and more importantly, the financial issues of these people. So, are they really ready to travel? Is a very, very important question. So, first, these things has to be addressed. Only then opening the borders will help. But of course, I would say it's a positive move. But how far effective, we have to wait and see, because the COVID cases are rising, and we also need to say whether Sri Lanka has really contained it, the spread. If it repeats, I mean, a week prior, if it again happens, the whole thing will go for a toss. So let's wait and see. There need to be some more waiting. That's what I feel. But it's a positive note. Let's hope it works for them also. I mean, the world around tourism has to survive.
So what do you think the future of the tourism is going to be?
You're talking about the Indian perspective? Or
Yeah, I'm talking about the Indian perspective.
Okay. See, I would say we have to live with the fact that the corona is going to stay for some time. I mean, we have to take it along with us in this fight.
True, yeah.
You know that Kerala, the prevention measures what we have taken for COVID is uploaded by the entire world. The Kerala model has been really
That's
good.
true, very true. Yeah.
So that is one positive aspect as far as Kerala is concerned. ഈ രോഗപ്രതിരോധ മേഖലയിൽ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ സംഭാവന വളരെയധികം മുന്നിട്ട് നിൽക്കുന്നുവെന്ന് ലോകത്തുള്ള എല്ലാ മാധ്യമങ്ങളും റിപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്തൊരു കാര്യം കൂടിയാണ്. അങ്ങനെ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ that's a positive for Kerala alone. I mean, maybe some other states of India have done really well. So for them, it is like a very positive news. And that could even attract some kind of traffic towards Kerala for our health safety measures. So there is a general feeling that Kerala is a safe destination. ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു വളരെ വിശ്വാസത്തോടുകൂടി വരാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു സുരക്ഷിതമായ വിനോദസഞ്ചാര കേന്ദ്രമാണ് കേരളം എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ധാരണ പൊതുവെ ഇറ്റ്സ് എമംഗ് ദ ടൂറിസ്റ്റ് ദർ ഇസ് എ ഫീലിംഗ് ലൈക്ക് ദാറ്റ്. So that is going to be a plus for Kerala, but at the same time we have seen the cases are rising now. So if you ask me, I won't say that people should start traveling immediately. We can say that for a marketing purpose, but the bottom line is that we are not equipped so far. A lot of measures to be done, especially the SOPs for hotels and transport. That will take some time to implement, and we have to declare only when we are fully ready. Frankly speaking, I would say we would be doing say 30% of what we have done last year. Most of the inbound companies would be like that. So let's look at surviving first. It's all about hanging in there for the next 1 year or so, and I'm sure 2021 winters would be a very good season for Kerala. So till then we have to hang in. That's a mantra.
ഇപ്പോൾ ആയുർവേദയുടെ കാര്യം പറഞ്ഞായിരുന്നു. നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ഈ ഒരു പീരീഡിൽ നമ്മൾ ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ആയുർവേദ കാര്യമായുള്ള ഒരു രീതിയിൽ നമ്മളത് മാർക്കറ്റ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്.
ആയുർവേദ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഒരുപാട് വേൾഡ് അറൗണ്ട് ഇപ്പോൾ സംസാരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ബേസിക്കലി ഇമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയുടെ കാര്യം പറയുമ്പോൾ ഇമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ഓഫ് ദ പേഴ്സൺ ഹാസ് become the talking point in most of the national and international media now. So now the promotion has to be in such a way that, I mean, you can't say that you can treat COVID with Ayurveda. It is nobody will take that for an answer. But at the same time, how to boost your immunity? How to take care of your body in a better way so that you can prevent the chances of getting the virus infection can be lowered with better immunity. So on that front, Ayurveda is definitely going to be a catch point for Kerala, and we have to really work on this, because this is something unique for Kerala. Other states or other countries doesn't have this. So this is something Kerala can really work upon, and I think the governments of both the state and central government would make use of this opportunity of promoting Ayurveda.
When do you think the inbound movement will start, and do you think the prices are going to shoot up after this COVID-19 thing, and is it going to affect the tourism?
Of course, it has affected the tourism a lot, and it will continue to hurt us for some more time. But see, the situation currently is that we won't be able to say when this is going to end. Maybe we'll have to take it in our stride for the next maybe a year or so, because this is something which we never had a precedence, you know. It is something new, and we have never faced a situation like this. When we have gone through the floods, you know, economic recession, but this is something which no one has got a real idea when this will stop and when life will be back to normal. But by the look of things, it is almost certain that this is going to stay for some more time. So it would be a premature question answer if I say that tourism can start on a specific date. But with the experience and the practical knowledge we have, I don't expect it to open the international travel before, say, November or December of 2020. The reason being, currently the cases are slightly on the higher side, so we expect that to be contained at least by August. We open the borders by September, and then people will slowly they recover from this the pandemic and slowly start moving. So there can be some sort of movement, might be in smaller volumes, sometime in November, and it should pick up by January and February. We should be at the peak, and March also, maybe April also it can go. But after that again, the inbound season will have the off-season time. Regarding the prices part, I think the prices are going to be expensive. Though the hotels are willing to reduce the prices, the thing is that with the recent SOPs and the sanitization measures, the prices are bound to go up, because there is a lot of cost involved in the hygiene, you know, and a lot of things have to be maintained as per the protocol. Even for the vehicles, you have to have the shield, the partition.
Is that mandatory to have that shield in the vehicles?
It is not mandatory, but going forward, that will be an added advantage. You know, it's a trust for the safety. So most of
for both the drivers and the passengers.
Otherwise, there is a lot of uncertainty, and the two can end in a mess. So I think the prices are going to be expensive for the tours, and also you know, a lot of group tours have been happening to India, but that will come down drastically because of the social distancing and stuff like that. There will be more of FIT tours, and so the people who were traditionally traveling on group might have to resort to FITs. So that automatically becomes
more expensive.
Tours would get more expensive, and also there are chances that the airlines also might get expensive. So the overall package would be slightly more expensive than what we expect.
So do you think the airline companies are going to hike the prices?
We hope they won't, but practically speaking, we expect there will be, we can expect some sort of a hike in the airline cost also. We can't blame them for that, because most of the airlines are on the verge of bankruptcy. You know, some of them are already closed down. The reason being, the shutdown has been far too long for any sort of airline to survive. Even the cash-rich airlines are finding it difficult. Some are resorting to cargo movements only. The main issue is with the social distancing. How is it going to affect the seating pattern of an aircraft? As per the airline maths, it has to be at least 60% of the seats has to be filled for them to be even at a break even, and they make money on top of the 60%. But with the social distancing, and if we have to leave the middle row empty, then that much inventory is gone, and that cost factor will naturally be passed on to the other passengers. But I think as per the recent developments, the person sitting in the middle seat will be with the protective mask and shield, and so in that way maybe they can complete inventory can be used, and only the hygiene and the protection gear has to be charged. So if that is the case, then of course the hike will be lesser. Otherwise, the airline prices are going to be more. Also at the airports, the sanitization procedures are very high. They have to do the tests, and so that way all these costs will add up to the price of the package, and the traveler will have to pay it in the end.
So in general, it's going to be a very expensive affair.
Very expensive, I doubt, but of course it will be expensive than the previous
compared
year.
to the previous years.
I expect so. Yeah.
Right. And now most of the hotels in Kerala are open right now. And how do you think they will survive in this situation? Because there is no inbound traffic, there's no domestic, the passengers from other states are also not traveling right now. So obviously we have to I mean, only if the local people start traveling, they can the hotels will be benefited. Is that really happening, or do you think we should start pushing this local travel now?
Yeah, what you said is absolutely right, Jay. See, the travel from abroad has stopped. There's no flights operating, and even though the domestic flights have started operating, I'm sure no one is coming for tourism purpose. It's basically people getting back home or joining their parents, and but the tourism angle, the flights operations have not started so far, and there is no such movement also. It will take time, I would say. As I said, no, it will be only by say October, September that we can see some domestic traction. But the currently the movement what we can expect or we can focus on is the movement of people within Kerala who are self-driving. No? Self-driving means I travel with my family alone, so I'm safe that there is no contamination, and I'm traveling in my own vehicle. There is no exposure to a public sport, so I travel with my family, preferably to a short duration destination. It will be a short haul. It will be maybe for 1 or 2 nights. I might take out my family out, not more than that. The traditional 7-day holiday concept is not there. I might travel to a destination closer to my place. There are two reasons behind it. One, the holidays has not happened for a long time, and secondly, people have been locked down for a long time. So that was, for some people, it's like a prison. They have been in a prison. They just want to break free, go out and eat something. Those people might venture out. So we can expect a person staying in Trivandrum to come to Ernakulam or Cochin. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മൂന്നാറിലുള്ള ഒരാൾ അല്ല കൊച്ചിയിലുള്ള ഒരാൾ മൂന്നാറിലേക്ക് പോവുക, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തേക്കടിയിലേക്ക് പോവുക, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആലപ്പിയിൽ ഒരു ഹൗസ് ബോട്ട് ക്രൂസ്. ഇതൊക്കെ ഒരു സ്ട്രെസ് ബസ്റ്റിംഗ് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ, ബിക്കോസ് അത്രയ്ക്കൊരു സ്ട്രെസ്സിലൂടെ ആളുകൾ പോയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ദേ ഹവ് ഗോൺ ത്രൂ സോ മച്ച് ഓഫ് സ്ട്രെസ് ദാറ്റ് people just want to take a short break at least. So that kind of crowd might travel in short time. The kids also are desperate because their vacation has entirely been spoiled. So our crowd in the movement we can expect, and we have to probably, the hotels and the operators should focus on that segment, probably apartment societies, യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റീസോ അങ്ങനത്തെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു ഗ്രൂപ്പ് മൂവ്മെൻറ്റ്സ് നടക്കില്ല, ബട്ട് യു ക്യാൻ വർക്ക്ഔട്ട് പാക്കേജസ് വിച്ച് ആർ മെൻ ഫോർ സ്മോളർ ഗ്രൂപ്പ്സ് ഓർ ഫാമിലീസ് ടു മൂവ് ടുഗദർ.
പക്ഷേ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു സിറ്റുവേഷനിലും എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഒരു ടൂർ ഓപ്പറേറ്റർ ബെനിഫിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്? കാരണം നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു പബ്ലിക്കിൻ്റെ ഒരു ടെൻഡൻസി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഓൺലൈൻ, ദേ ഗോ ടു ദ ഓൺലൈൻ സൈറ്റ്സ് ആൻഡ് ബുക്ക് ഓൺലൈൻ. പ്രൈസ് കോൺഷ്യസ് ആണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് അവർ പിന്നെ പ്രൈസ് കോൺഷ്യസിൻ്റെ മാത്രമല്ല, അവരുടെ ഒരു എന്താ പറയുക, അവരുടെ മനസ്സിലിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ഇതാണത്, ഓൺലൈൻ പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ യു ഗെറ്റ് എ ബെറ്റർ ഡീൽ എന്നുള്ളൊരു വിശ്വാസം എല്ലാവർക്കും ഉണ്ട്. ശരിക്കും അത് സത്യമല്ല പലപ്പോഴും. പക്ഷേ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു സിറ്റുവേഷനിൽ എങ്ങനെ ഒരു സാധാരണ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു ഓഫീസായിട്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ടൂർ ഓപ്പറേറ്റർ എങ്ങനെ ബെനിഫിറ്റ്?
So you mean to say that people tend to go after online OTAs?
Yes.
I would say it's more of a myth. That the online prices are cheaper. If you approach a proper offline tour operator, you might get a better price, or at least the prices will be matched. But there is a concept in everything is going online now. So people have a tendency that they show some discounts and some vouchers, and but if you go to the last bit of the payment part, then the prices might be higher than or maybe the inclusions are lesser. So I don't think there is a major difference between the price. The online have a major advantage. Maybe in 1 or 2 cases it would be there. But again, the problem is that when this COVID thing has happened, you have really realized the difference between a OTA and a offline tour operator, traditional tour operator. Because I personally have an experience. I don't want to name the OTA, but I booked a ticket for my travel abroad for work purpose, and the flight was cancelled. So even when the airline was willing to give a refund of that money, the OTA is not passing it on to me, because they are also in a cash crunch situation and they are desperately in need of money. So the refund is not yet passed. And the saddest part is that there was not a customer care we can contact there.
There's nobody to pick up the phone.
There's nobody to pick up the phone. The emails are like no reply emails. I mean, you send it, it bounces back to you. And the human element is missing there in the case of OTA. Well, it's all automated. You can see the prices. And I also used OTA. I'm not blaming it. That's purely due to the convenience factor for a destination. We might not know which for an unfamiliar destination. Some places we know that it's just for a stay. I'm not talking about the package.
Right.
If it's just for a hotel stay, it's okay. You can do that. You can choose the hotel which is location and just book it. You can see all the compare the prices and just book it. That's okay. But when you're traveling to a country like India, for that matter Kerala, there's a lot of things involved in that. It has to be a package, and
tour.
it has to, the experiences cannot come through a OTA. You can book a hotel, it's okay. You can book a cab, it's okay. But if you want to package it, I would suggest it go through a offline tour operator. And as I said, no, the refund part, there is no one to get hold of. You are in a crisis, you are in a strange place, there is some big problem happening, and you are left in no man's land. You have to but in the
You
case
call
of
up
a tour
somebody, there is
operator,
nobody to answer your call, and you are stuck somewhere.
said, when you are stuck in a big problem at an unknown destination, then the offline tour operator is the only person you can rely upon. In the middle of the night, anytime, you just pick your phone and speak to your tour operator. He is there to find some sort of a solution, or at least give you a soothing word to you. But I'm afraid that's not the case with the offline OTAs. I've had experiences like that. So just give your offline tour operator also a preference. I mean, they are also doing it out of passion, and it's a matter of survival for most of them.
So how do you think we can change the mindset of the people? Is there any, should we start a campaign or something, so that they understand, this is how the booking is done, and these are the rates you are getting? I don't think anybody has done any comparison earlier. They just have that mindset that the offline agents are more expensive than the OTA.
Yes.
So do you think we can change the mindset of the people?
See, as I said, it's mainly the convenience factor which is driving a lot of people towards that. So the offline tour operators also have to explore the online possibilities. They can also be very customer friendly. Instead of him sending mails and chasing you also should have your website updated with the deals. That way a major part can be addressed there. And also it's a notion, I would say it's a wrong notion from the part of the travelers also, that everything online is cheap. That is not the right thing. You take the effort of speaking to a couple of offline tour operators, and then you will see the difference. It's not a major difference. And when you add up that to this trust factor and a reliability thing, I think it's worth paying a 200 or 300 rupees extra for that offline tour operator.
The service what they're getting.
Yeah, and I don't think there need to be a big campaign for this, but a lot of people would have understood at this juncture that what is the difference between an offline and online, because you must have booked a holiday for your children, and that might have got cancelled, and the refund policies, all those things, you can just think for yourself and figure out the differences.
So thank you, Hari. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope tourism will come back soon.
It will.
Yeah.
Only thing is that we all are expecting the vaccine to come. I hope it will come sometime in September or something. That will make a lot of difference, and I'm hopeful. It's as
We
I
just
said,
need to give some time.
it's just to be
Matter of some time.
it's just to stay positive and invest your time into creative things. I mean, enhance your product knowledge, bring in more products, train your staff properly, make use of this time for that, and you ensure cost control. Cost cutting has to be there, and as I said earlier, it is all about surviving till the next year. So you have to look at a 1 year period. You have to survive till then, and after that, I'm sure there is going to be a surge in the arrivals, and we'll do really well.
Thank you for your positive words, Hari.
Thanks, Jay. It's a pleasure. Thank you.